Hittin' the Road is proudly sponsored by G.E. Johnson Construction Company, Charles J. Murphy, Gray Line of Colorado, Laura and Brian Markovich, Elham and Edward Ketchum, Wendy and Mark Pfeiffer, and viewers like you. Have you been looking for fun in all the wrong places and coming up empty-handed? Well, maybe you've been hanging out in the wrong alley. If you've got some spare time and you want to pin down some excitement, well, perhaps you should consider spending some time in the bowling alley. If this strikes you as a good idea, now might be the time to live life in the fast lane. On this episode of Hittin' the Road, this is how we roll. Let's do this.
I'm hitting the road again. Got adventure crawling under my skin. Going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road. I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all of my friends. Living life like there's just no end. I'm hitting the road. Feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
On this episode of Hittin' the Road, we begin our journey deep in the heart of Texas at the International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame, and I'll get some tips on my game from a Team USA coach. We'll get a peek into all the cool stuff in the International Training and Research Center and meet a robot named Earl. Then we'll roll on to Colorado Springs and strike up a conversation with a genuine legend in women's professional bowling. Finally, we hit the lanes and somehow find ourselves in a discotheque. The game of bowling can be traced all the way back to ancient Egypt, where bowling artifacts have been discovered in the tomb of the unknown bowler. I can just imagine the pharaohs, bowling bags in hand, hopping on their camels and heading down to Pyramid Lanes for a rowdy Friday night of fun. Bowling has been a part of the American culture since it was brought over by European immigrants and can be found in almost every town in the U.S. In fact, it is so popular that bowling alleys have been built in some of the grandest mansions and hotels, such as the elegant Biltmore Mansion in Asheville, North Carolina, and the world-famous Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs. Its popularity is so widespread that there is even a bowling alley in the White House. However, to really pin down the history of bowling, we decided to head down to the Lone Star State. We're here in Arlington, Texas at the International Bowling Campus, where our tour guide today is Eric Kearney. So Eric, tell me a little bit about the history of the museum and the Hall of Fame.
The original International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame was opened in St. Louis, right outside of Busch Stadium in 1984. It stayed in that location until 2008. Then it was moved here to the International Bowling Campus January and opened officially in January of 2010.
Okay, what do visitors to this museum get to see while they're here?
Well, when you come to the International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame, you get 5,000 years of history, not just world history, but also American history. Bowling is the most popular sport in America today and the most popular sport around the world. Over 68 million people bowl in America and over 100 million people bowl all over the world.
Is it true that bowling has its roots in ancient Egypt?
There is evidence of bowling and a game similar to bowling in a tomb in ancient Egypt. But the game that you know was developed in early Europe. What you have here is a depiction of the establishment of the Women's International Bowling Congress that was established in November of 1916 in St. Louis, Missouri. Women weren't allowed to compete in the American Bowling Congress for a great deal of years. So the establishment of this organization was a big deal for women's rights in the early 1900s.
They were just afraid women were going to beat them.
And they did. Pin boys were used had been used since the game was brought to the Americas. and were utilized up until about the early 1940s when automatic pin setters were introduced to the game. They earned anywhere between 2 cents and a dime per game, and it was a thankless job. It was a dirty job, but the pin boys loved to do it.
Eric, tell me about the beer teams. That sounds fun.
Well, in the early 1940s, 1950s, and then again into the 60s, beer teams would travel the country and compete against one another. A lot of people don't know that some of the members of these beer teams, such as Falstaff and Pabst and Stroh's, and the most famous, the Budweisers, actually earned more money in their day than most professional athletes such as football, basketball, and even golf.
And a great after party.
Absolutely.
So this women's exhibit is your newest exhibit?
Yes, this is a historical piece in which we depict the struggle and as well as the triumphs of women in professional bowling. There have been some significant accomplishments for women in the professional ranks, and we wanted to celebrate that with this exhibit. What you will see here is the history of how professional women's bowling came to be. Like I said, the trials and tribulations that they went through during their professional careers, and how it was actually 2 professional women's tours at one particular time. And then they came back together and continued along their path of establishing themselves as true professionals in this sport.
Okay, so bowling isn't just for fun. This looks like we're starting to get pretty serious.
Absolutely. This is the international representation of our sport, in which we have here in the Museum and Hall of Fame. Bowling is, like I said earlier, is the most popular sport in the world. And this is where Team USA trains here at the International Bowling Campus and inside the International Training and Research Center. Bowling was actually an Olympic exhibition sport in not only 1936, but also 1988. And we're working hard for it to become an Olympic sport again in 2024. Our Team USA are seen as celebrities because they're so internationally known. We just talked about bowling at its highest level internationally, but here domestically, one of our core functions at the United States Bowling Congress is running championship tournaments. And here what you will see is a representation of our USBC Open Championships, which is the largest participatory sporting event in the world. We have between 60 and 90,000 people who participate in this tournament every single year. We also have a women's championship event. Women compete in for prizes up to $6 million. And it's not just for the highly competitive bowler, but these championships are for everybody.
One of the more interesting things I learned is that bowling has donated over $100 million to charitable organizations such as the Bowlers to Veterans Link, the Special Olympics, Susan G. Komen Foundation, and many more, making bowling a very philanthropic sport. Wow, the Museum and Hall of Fame are amazing! The tour can take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, and be prepared to be completely bowled over. Next up, we've been invited to the International Training and Research Center.
I'm here with Neil Strimmel. Tell us what goes on here.
Well, this is the ITRC, the International Training and Research Center. This is where Team USA trains for all their international competition. We also have a lot of other teams from other countries or collegiate teams from the United States, etc. They all come here to train and work on their game. We have all the toys and tools that you can imagine here. We have grip pressure, we have foot pressure, we have timing systems, we have different kinds of sensors out on the lanes that can tell you your speed, tell you how consistent you are in your swing, your backswing, your follow through, all that kind of stuff.
Cameras everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know how many cameras are in this place actually.
And those cameras actually tell you how your form is, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong?
Yeah, they're simple ones that just give you, the video feedback like you can get virtually anywhere. But then there's biomechanics cameras that once you are set up, can basically put you into a video game or put you into software, and we can analyze the swing, the consistency, the speed, you name it.
And you actually have a robot bowler here?
We do. His name is Earl.
Earl?
Yeah.
Can we see Earl?
We sure can.
Okay, great. What is this robotic arm actually testing?
It's testing a variety of things. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish and trying to learn. We usually use it for understanding bowling ball motion, cover stocks of the bowling ball. We also use it for the lane oil that goes on the lane to protect the lane. That oil can go on in a pattern which will affect ball motion. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish. It's very versatile. That's one of the things we love about it. It's much more consistent than any human bowler. So therefore, we take that out of the equation and we don't have to worry about inconsistencies from a regular bowler.
Hi, my name is Jason Milligan. You are now inside the USPC ITRC Research and Training Facility. What we do on this side, the research side of the ITRC, is we actually do approval for such things as bowling balls, bowling pins, lane panels, kickbacks, pretty much anything you'll encounter in a bowling environment in certified competition. My direct title is Research Technician. I do all the bowling ball approval testing, and what you see behind us here is a little bit of a history piece, or a museum piece if you will, showing us some of the past to current technology, starting off with wooden bowling balls, proceeding into rubber, plastic, urethane, reactive and particle cover stocks, along with a whole lot of different core shapes and core sizes that go into the bowling balls that really create the ball's dynamics. So what we have here is, again, a large view, an overview, if you will, from all the manufacturers of what actually goes on inside of a ball. Most folks think it's a round object being thrown down a lane. As you can see, there's a lot more going on inside it scientifically and geometrically that makes it not just a round object. So that's our little spin on the sport. And as we had with the balls over there, we have the same kind of a thing with a little history display of what goes on with the bowling pins. We have bowling pins here that are approved all the way back into the 1930s, all the way back up through to the current products released today. We also have a couple different items that are bowling-like, such as duck pin, candle pin, and 5-pin bowling pins as well. And then of course for Christmas kicks, we got a little caroler right there. Along this wall, so we have some of the pictures of the testing devices we actually use to certify the bowling balls and the bowling pins. And right behind this wall, that's where all the testing and magic happens.
It's the moment of truth. Time for me to get my game on.
My name is Kim Terrell-Kearney. I am assistant coach for Team USA and for the International Training and Research Center here. So I give all the lessons here at the training center and work with both our junior and adult Team USA. And I'm going to give Donna a few lessons.
No pressure. Kim, being a Team USA coach, was able to rapidly identify all of the problems with my game. In spite of her horror, she was still able to give me instruction on grip, approach, balance, and release. And the most important thing I learned was I'll never have to worry about the pressures of becoming a touring pro. It's not every day that you get to talk to a Hall of Fame athlete, but today I get to talk to Tish Johnson, and she's been inducted into 2 different Halls of Fame. Hey, Tish.
Hi, Donna. How are you?
Good, thank you. Tell us, how old were you when you got into bowling?
After my mom had me, I was in the bowling center 2 days after I was born.
So you just sort of grew up in the bowling alley?
I started bowling when I was 2. I'm one of 6 kids, and my parents both worked in a bowling center.
Well, I was going to ask you when you first thought about turning pro, but then I read that you were Southern California Woman Bowler of the Year 7 times. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm guessing you probably had a good idea where you were headed by then.
Yeah. I was bowling league on a Saturday morning, and I saw the PBA, and I saw Earl Anthony. I said that's what I wanted to be someday. So from the time I was 8 years old till I turned professional when I was 18, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So between 8 and 18, how many times a week would you bowl?
I bowled every day, and I bowled tournaments on the weekend if I wasn't playing basketball or volleyball or softball.
What was your average, say, when you were 10 years old?
I think when I was 10, it was about 150. Then when I turned 12, I was averaging 200. I shot my first 300 when I was 14. I won my first tournament when I was 12. Well, we started out, the first year that I went out on tour, we had 15 events, I think. We dropped down to 13, and then the following year we went to 23 events. I bowled a tournament in Japan in 1990, and I won the first time I ever went overseas. And then they dress you up in a kimono afterwards, and it was a check presentation and all that stuff was pretty cool.
So tell me about bowling injuries. injuries. That is something I wanted to ask you about. I mean, I've heard of tennis elbow. Is there like bowling bursitis?
You know, if you bowl 250 games in a week, you're gonna have wear and tear on your body. You use 92% of every muscle in your body to bowl with. Every 3 games you bowl, you actually walk 2.3 miles.
Have you had any serious problems you had to bowl with your hand?
I broke my hand one time. I stuck on the approach and I fell and I had hit the gutter cap and I broke this, and that's why I have a scar there. And I have screws in my hand, but that was the only time. And I finished bowling and I ended up winning the tournament. I have never withdrawn from a tournament in my life.
What was it like to be the first woman to break the $100,000 mark?
It was pretty cool, but then I also won a tournament to where I actually beat all the guys. And to look at the check, that was probably the best thing in the world.
When you were in competition, did you consider yourself in competition with the other ladies, or was it just you against the pins?
It's always you against the pin. If you stay within yourself, yeah, 95% of the time you're gonna beat them. But sometimes it's not going to happen that way. But once you step on those lanes, sorry, you're not my friend. I'm out here to make a living, and if I don't beat you, I might not get a paycheck this week. When I decided that I wanted to be a professional bowler, I wanted something for women or younger women that had something to do, to where I wanted to set every goal or every thing I could to have somebody, so somebody would have a chance to try to beat that.
Is there one match or one tournament that stands out as the most exciting or the most intense that you were ever a part of?
I was bowling the US Open in Fountain Valley, California, and it was probably the closest tournament that my parents could come to. 2 weeks prior to the tournament, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So she didn't know if she was gonna be able to be there because it was pretty advanced. And all of a sudden, my parents showed up for the TV show. I happened to make the TV show. And I qualified second, so I had to bowl the third place person first, and I won that match. Then I had to bowl the title match. And it came all the way down to the 10th frame. And I needed the strike to win. If I strike, I win I win my first US Open, whatever. And just before I got up there to bowl, I said, I gotta do this for my mom. And so I tugged it a little bit and went Brooklyn and I struck. So I had won. So I lost a tournament, the last major, by leaving a stone 9, which is, I left 1 pin in the back row to lose. So to have my mom there, to what she was going through, my whole family was there, that was pretty awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get down to basics. The game of bowling is pretty simple. It consists of you, the player, a bowling ball, a lane with a gutter on each side, and 10 pins at the end. Your mission is to knock as many pins down on your first try. If you do that, that's called a strike. If you don't, you get a second chance to knock the rest of the pins down, and if you're successful, that's called a spare. An open frame is when you're unlucky enough to leave a few pins standing after your second roll. The main rule is not to cross the foul line on your approach. Crossing into restricted territory results in you getting a big fat 0 for that roll.
I was never really that good at math. I couldn't keep track of spares and strikes, but thank goodness today it's all computerized.
Each game consists of 10 frames and takes about 10 minutes per person. The goal of the game is to knock as many pins down as possible. If you can manage to knock all the pins down for 10 consecutive frames, you have rolled a perfect 300 game. You have managed to accomplish a very rare feat, and you are on your way to the pros. However, if you're like me, you use the roll and hope method. If by some miracle you do happen to roll a strike, it's really important to remain humble and set an example so as not to dash the hopes and dreams of your fellow bowlers.
Don't have your own equipment? Don't worry, they have everything you need right here.
Now, if you're having trouble picking a ball size, a good place to start is to start with about 10% of your body weight. Right here, I've got a 10-pound ball and 11-pound ball.
Okay.
All right. Now, on these, we'll start. Go ahead and grab the 11. On that, you'll see right here, we've got a medium right here. You're holding one that has a large. That talks about the finger size hole. So if your fingers go in and they feel comfortable, that's the size you want to go with.
Okay.
Now,
so small, medium, large is finger size.
that's the finger size, and then the weight tells you how heavy it is. And then also by color too, because you see purple and orange.
Okay.
Now, you're holding a large 11. This one is a medium 11. So the finger size holes for this ball and this ball are going to be identical, even though the weights aren't.
Okay.
So if you want to try the medium, see how that feels for you.
Okay, I think the medium's a little
Medium's
better.
probably better than the large. So, and then the 10-pound weight, how does that feel?
That feels better.
If you're serious about the sport, you can go to any pro shop and get custom fitted shoes and balls. There, they will get precise measurements of your hands and fingers and drill a ball that is perfect for your game. As simple as the game seems, there is a real science to it. As we saw earlier in the show, bowling can be a fun pastime for the whole family, and as with any sport, you can get to an elite level with years of practice and perseverance. If you're looking for great entertainment, head down to the bowling center. It's not just a sport, it's an adventure. I'm spending time today with Nicole Helseth. Nicole is the event sales manager for Brunswick Zone XL and my new BBF.
Now I'm really interested in this. What is cosmic bowling?
Sure, cosmic bowling is where the lights go out and we turn up the fun. And this is done by using black lights, so everything is neon. There's an amazing laser light show that goes on, and a light fog goes over the lanes. And then of course we turn up the volume on the most upbeat music today.
Cosmic bowling started in the mid-1990s. That's about when casual bowling had a bit of a downturn in participation. Cosmic bowling was started to pump up the fun factor, bring people back to the lanes, and open up the sport to a whole new generation of bowlers. Oh, very good. So the kid in all of us, actually.
Absolutely.
Hey, party people. This is DJ King. Now I woke up from my team to bring you today and yesterday's hottest hits. Now if you guys are ready for some cosmic bowling, I want you to scream as loud as you can on the count of 3. Ready, everyone? 1, 2, 3. Alright, that was okay. I know you can give me so much more. I want you to scream, shout, and let it all out on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That's more like it, guys. Cosmic begins in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
My friends, I do it all the time. We do it like every weekend. I love it. It's so much fun.
Whether it's a date night, a birthday party, or even a team building exercise with your company, it's perfect for any occasion.
I definitely kicked her butt at bowling though.
She did. She's got some skills.
And if you're one of those who can't wait to tell your friends about the big game you rolled, then post your scores for the world to see.
So no matter what kind of a day you're having, bowling is going to put you in the right frame of mind.
road again. Got adventure crawling under my skin, going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road. I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all my friends, living life like there's just no end. I'm hitting the road, feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
Hitting the Road is proudly sponsored by G.E. Johnson Construction Company, Charles J. Murphy, Gray Line of Colorado, Laura and Brian Markovich, Elham and Edward Ketchum, Wendy and Mark Pfeiffer, and viewers like you.